G'day everyone, welcome to another episode of Wine Wednesday, and today I am going to Hawaii, and to the island of Maui in particular. A mate came back from there recently and bought some wine back, and when you think of, when someone tells you, I've got some wine from Hawaii, it sort of, your mind sort of races to various places and going, well, what's that going to be like? Do they grow grapes there? What do they make it from? And it is actually made from pineapples, but the people who grow it, it is the Maui Wine Company, and the vineyard is on obviously he's on the eastern part of the island, and Haleakala, which is the East Maui volcano, is a dormant volcano which forms a big part of the eastern side of the island, especially sort of the slopes there. It's around 3,000 metres high, and it last erupted sometime in the 16th century. So they actually planted the guy who owns the vineyard planted the first vineyards in 1977, and shortly started planting pineapples afterwards as well. The vineyard itself, or the area, is about 550 metres above sea level, and so it brings up sort of connotations of Stanthorpe in Queensland and southeastern Queensland, just a couple of hundred kilometres inland, 150 kilometres inland from the beach. So obviously we think about Queensland as being tropical, but the elevation at Stanthorpe is sort of 650, 700 metres above sea level and above. And so, similar to this place, on the eastern side of the Maui Island, which 550 metres above sea level, even though it has a tropical attributes to the climate, so up there at higher, it's cooler. You've got lovely exposure to the trade winds over here in Hawaii, so it just keeps that element of, I suppose, things are drying out faster and a cooler climate. And mould and stuff doesn't seem to be as prevalent as if it was the further down a hill where the temperatures will be hotter, the humidity would still be quite high. It would still be high, but obviously up further height, further elevation, you're going to get less disease pressure. They grow, the varieties that they planted, they grow Shiraz, they grow Malbec, they grow Chenin Blanc, they grow Gewurtztraminer and Viognier. So mainly white, so obviously be able to pick them a bit earlier, sort of remove them from, I suppose, that excessive disease pressure, waiting for some of those reds to ripen up, and typically an earlier ripening varieties as well. Obviously not much Grenache planted there, obviously a late ripener with big thick bunches with lots of potential for disease within them. So, but this, yes, made from the Maui Gold pineapples, very lovely, wonderful pineapples there. You don't really get them anywhere else other than Hawaii, because I think the way that they pick them quite late, whereas often pineapples in Australia are different varieties. They picked a bit earlier, they're quite acidic, but over there they really want this luscious, flavoursome pineapple. So they typically they get picked a bit later, so they haven't really got the opportunity to export them, because that extra delay may not maintain their quality, because obviously being a bit riper, they're a bit more susceptible to damage, and time is of the essence for them. So I think they're picked and pretty well sold very quickly and eaten very quickly as well on the island. The property is the Ulupalakua Ranch, which has been going from the late 70s, as I said. And in 2023, it was actually given an AVA, an American, actually a vineyard designation. So a bit like an appellation in Europe, or in France in particular, or a DOC or DOCG in Italy. So Americans use an AVA and really recognise regions for its, I suppose, uniqueness. And you can imagine what a unique environment. The volcanic soils, elevated on the eastern side of Maui, would be really, really quite unique. So without further ado, let's give it a go. So they've used, I said, Maui Gold pineapples. They pick them, they press them, and they use the juice and they ferment that. And the resultant wine is a slightly off-dry style. But really interesting to note, because obviously whether a pineapple wine tastes like pineapples. Because obviously when you pick grapes, and say a Sauvignon Blanc grape, it has methoxypyrazines in it, so it has this sort of grassiness, there's snow peas, etc. And then you pick Riesling, and it often has citrus and limes and slatiness and minerality and what have you. So, but obviously grapes are grapes, but pineapples, be interesting to see how much the fermentation influences the wine, and what other components. I'm sure it does smell like pineapples, but I'm sure there is other components in there as well. So very, very, oh my gosh, look at that, super pale. There's literally no colour in that. So, and definitely has an intense pineapple, sort of pineapple note, but in the same token, there are some stone fruit notes, there is some citrus in there. It's sort of got a mixture of, if you wanted to relate it to grape varietals, I think it's got a Riesling component to it, and maybe a bit of Viognier as well, but there is definitely that pineapple element through the background. Sort of slightly aged Rieslings, and sort of that sort of a Viognier element as well, where they often get some apricotiness and everything. But I think if you put them all together and the flavours and the aromas integrate, you sort of you can definitely see the pineapples. But yeah. And it's slightly off dry, and once again, it tastes like pineapples, but it gives you that impression. Tasting it now, it is literally alcoholic pineapple juice, or alcoholic pineapples, whereas the aromas gave the, as I said, there's definitely pineapple there, but had elements of Riesling and a bit of Viognier in there. But on the palate, tasting it, it's 11.5% alcohol. It does taste like alcoholic pineapples. So there you go. That is awesome. There are all 50 states in America, the United States of America, do have a wine industry. Not all of them grow their own grapes. Not all of them grow grapes and make wine out of grapes, often things like this, the pineapples, for example. But California grows about 80% of America's wine, and produces about 80% of America's wine, whereas there are obviously wine industries in the other 49 states, but not everyone uses grapes as their base. But interesting fact. So there we go, a Maui Blanc made from Maui Gold pineapples from the Maui Wine Company, from the Ulupalakua Ranch on the eastern slopes of Haleakala, obviously the dormant volcano over there on Maui Island. So there you have it. Thank you for listening. You learn something new every day. Cheers.